Thank you. So now moving to item 7, the performance report for September. Important to note that this performance report relates to a period where there's been an effect, obviously, of the COVID level 3 lockdown and also the ongoing level 2 restrictions. So we need to look at the performance in that context. So Peter, if we take some introductory remarks first and then move to questions. Thank you.
Sure. Good morning. Before I commence, is there any premium on your time today given developments around the city? Do I need to keep...
We're keen to keep moving as quickly as possible.
At pace?
Yeah.
Okay. Understood. Look, this is the headline report against the key organisational performance targets around service delivery, capital project delivery and planning, as well as finance. It's meant to provide you with a big picture overview before you go into the detailed reports that follow. I'd just like to note that the supporting managers who I would normally have here, I've requested they don't attend, partly for distancing reasons, but also because many of them will be very busy preparing. We all have business continuity plans in place so that if there is an alert declared, those managers are busy getting ready in case that occurs. Right. The bottom line of this report is that we're good at things we control and we've taken a hit on some things that we don't. By that I mean service delivery and financials are looking good despite lockdown impacts earlier in the year. Capital program has had some effects, obviously, from lockdown and the fact that it was tools down for that period. Projects were stood up again quickly, and Ruth will talk to that again later, and in particular going forward into the annual plan. The bottom line on levels of service is that we're actually above target, and it's the best result in since about July 2020, trending upwards. Now, this is pretty good given that we've lost some things due to the fact that facilities simply couldn't open during lockdown. So their throughput, their attendance rates were lost for the year, and there's no way to get that back. Despite that, we're actually above target, which has been a struggle in some years when we didn't have lockdown. So that gives some idea of how good the service continuity has actually been. I can refer you on the first page of the report to what you might call the bubble diagram at the bottom of the page, which shows the major activities of council on a graph of bang for buck, so service delivery and financial spend. The sweet spot is obviously high up there where they're on budget but also delivering their levels of service at the same time. You'll see some drift for rec and sport, which is mainly due to revenue loss during lockdown, and also some drift for transport, which is again revenue loss and some satisfaction measures. And water supply is a mixture of consumption, which was high, and satisfaction measures. Now the detail will follow. I will stress that the managers have business continuity plans in place, as I mentioned earlier. So if we do move into an alert, I expect the transition would be relatively smooth. We've done this before, and that's why we're at the position we are now. Capital projects, Ruth will go into detail. You can see that we're at 76 against the target of 90 for watch list and roughly 70 against the target of 85 for non-watch list. That's to be expected given the tools down situation earlier in the year. If we go again, then obviously there will be an impact for that as well. Now, some of these things performance for the current year won't move, but we're briefing you on the 2nd of November for the annual plan about proposed changes. There'll be a staff recommendation of proposed changes for the capital program. They involve some bringbacks and move forwards. You'll see that on the 2nd, but I'm just flagging that the situation is fluid and moving. Capital planning is another target, and the purpose of that is to make sure that while we're focused on delivery, we're also feeding the other end of the pipe, and there are good plans in place for capital to be actually built. We're at around 40%, 38.5%, for plans to be ready by the 1st of March next year. So ELT has discussed this. There's a process in place to focus on this. We probably need to look hard at this aspect. Below that is a complex graph that I won't dive into too deeply here. The purpose of it is to put some high beams out into the future on the capital program and its performance in the future. The idea here is to see all of CCC's proposed delivery in one place so core and external, and match that against what's actually happening. And this will spring into life a bit more as you see the annual plan develop. It'll be updated every time you see this so that you see what has moved in and what has moved out. Financially, we're in a terrific position. There's a $7 million surplus and the capital program is well within target for spend. So that's the high level overview. Obviously, Ruth will be talking to you about the detail around the capital program. Leah can talk to you about the detail about the financial position. And at that point, that's the overview. I'm happy to receive questions or however you'd like to handle it, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So let's move to questions, if there are questions. Does anybody have questions on this report? So Pauline.
Thanks, Peter. Just on the bubble graph,
Yep.
you said you had more detail about the water supply being so low. What's the reason for that? Is that the satisfaction survey or?
It's a mixture of some satisfaction questions. The last one had some negatives about, for example, smell and taste. That's chlorine.
Yeah.
And there's also the consumption measure. The city's consumption went up past where we expected it to be.
Yeah, which is, is it lack of rainfall maybe? Or?
I can go to the,
It's usually summertime when the consumption moves up, isn't it?
Yes, but I think that maybe if you can give me a moment, I might just take on board what they've got in the comments. If you just give me a moment to read it.
Okay.
There is an uptick in water use. There's also leakage rates.
Yeah.
So they're the contributing factors.
The leakage rate is something we haven't been able to get on top of very well.
That's a global issue, and 23% is the figure they've put there.
Yeah. Thank you. It's just that sorry Andrew, when it sits there in that bubble it looks quite alarming, but actually when the description sits there behind it, it's not so alarming.
There is a good story.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Yanni.
Yeah, thank you. Just on page 25, it just says that we're waiting on the year-end results for our water supplies and for the responsiveness and for the quality. And then there's just a comment, there's general dissatisfaction across Christchurch regarding water supply. So when are we likely to get those results?
As I said, the managers aren't here. Helen will be, I think, quite busy, but I can take those questions away to her.
Okay.
I don't know the technical data or what's underneath that or how it's measured, but I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I think that would just be useful. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. Anything further? All right, so we've got a recommendation then to receive the report, which I'm happy to move. Jimmy Chen was second. Any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you.